at you with another Shabbat service. And as you can see from the lesson, we're going into the Feast of Dedications, right? Breaking down the history of the Feast of Dedications and the spiritual significance of the Feast of Dedications, right? So we're going to start off with the book of Job, chapter 8 and verse 8, right? Because we have to realize as Israelites, we got to rehearse the righteous acts and follow the footsteps of our forefathers, right? Stop following the footsteps of the so-called white man, right? Celebrating his Christmas, his Thanksgiving. No, we got to come back to the Lord and the feast days that the Most High ordained within Israel. You got it, brother. Job chapter 8, verse 8.
It's the book of Job, chapter 8 and verse 8.
Right.
And it reads, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age."
So we have to inquire, meaning to ask of the former age. We have to ask of the history of our forefathers, right? That's why we go into the Apocrypha, right? The 14 missing books that they took out of the original King James Version, right? We have to go into this understanding because the so-called white man doesn't want you to have this knowledge, right? But the Most High is waking up his people within the last days. So now we're blessed with this understanding to know our history, to know our culture, to know our language, to know what the Lord ordained within Israel. Keep reading, brother.
Job 8 and 9. It's like it. Job 8 and 8. "For I inquire, I pray thee, of the former age,
Read on.
and prepare thyself."
You have to prepare yourself, right? You got to prepare yourself spiritually, physically, mentally. You have to prepare yourself on all aspects. Read on.
Right? "And prepare thyself to the search of their fathers."
To the what?
To the search of their
So
fathers.
you have to prepare yourself to the search of your forefathers, right? Who are your forefathers? Judas Maccabees, right? The Maccabees brothers, right? King David, King Solomon, right? Hezekiah, right? Jehoshaphat. You got to prepare yourself to the search of your forefathers, man, right? Now give me the book of, you got a precept?
Isaiah 46 and 9.
God, get the book of Isaiah chapter 46 and verse 9. Right, so this is important history that we ought to know within Israel. Right, a lot of our people, they know about, you know, the history of the so-called white man. Right, they know about all the wars of Esau. Right, but you got to know about the temple and fight for the laws of the Most High. Right, our people have to stand up and fight for their brethren. Stop bowing down to the so-called white man, selling out and giving up your soul. Right, stand, like the old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So our people have to stand up within these last days as an exceeding great army, unified in righteousness and come back to the laws of the Lord. You got it, brother.
It's the book of Isaiah 46 and verse 9.
Right?
"Remember the former things of old."
What the Bible say?
Remember the former things of
You
old.
have to remember the former things of old. Right? You have to remember slavery. You have to remember the third seal, right, in which Esau had us in slavery. Right? You have to remember the former age. Right? You have to remember Hamashiach Yahushua, the miracles he done on the earth. You have to remember Paul. Right? You have to remember of the former age. Read on.
Right? "For I am Yahweh, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me."
Give me the book of Psalms, chapter 77 and verse 5. Right? Because you can learn a lot with history. Right? If you don't know your history, you're not going to know where you're going, man. That's why it's important for us to read Deuteronomy 28. That's why it's important for us to come back to our nationality. And as you come back to the laws of the Lord, you start to learn about the feast days. Right? You start to learn about what's spoken about in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. What's spoken about in 1st Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees. And you build yourself up to understand this history. You got it, brother.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 77 and verse 5.
Right?
"I have considered the days of old."
What the scripture say?
I have considered the days of old.
So you have to consider the days of old. You got to meditate, muse upon the days of old, and you also have to consider it within your spirit. Right? Because this is important history to know, man. This is not something you just kind of read over and just close the book and it is what it is. No, you got to put your heart, your soul, and your spirit, man, into knowing what our forefathers fought for. Right? Because these men ultimately laid that foundation. Right? These men are perfect examples for us to follow within these last days. Right? Because in the last days, the so-called white man is going to crack down on us. Right? He's going to try to defile the temple once again. Right? And that's the third temple. That goes into Jacob's trouble, martyrdom, when we get put to death for the name of the Lord. Right? A lot of our forefathers got put to death for the name of the Lord, man.
Right.
They stood firmly for the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Right? And the men of the Lord are going to do the same within these last days, as it states in 2nd Esdras, the 2nd chapter. These men stood stiffly for the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Right? But keep reading on to that, King.
"I have considered the days of old, The years of ancient times.
The what?
The years of ancient
So
times.
you have to consider the years of ancient times, man. Right? It's more to life than your last 20 years, man. Or your last 25 years. No, life was still going on prior to you. Right? And you would be a fool not to know and not to inquire of those things and those matters. Right? Give me the book of Sirach, chapter 5, and verse 15.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 5 and verse 15. And it reads, be not ignorant of anything.
What the Lord say?
Be not ignorant of anything.
That word ignorant means without know. Right? So you have to, with all your might and your spirit, you have to understand and know these things written in the scriptures. Right? To the best of your ability. So be not ignorant of anything. Read on.
In a great matter.
In a great matter. This is considered a great matter. Right? Reading the book of 1 Maccabees, 2 Maccabees, knowing what your forefathers fought for, being zealous for the law, cleansing the temple. Right? This is a great matter that you can't be ignorant of. Read on.
Or a small.
Or what?
Or a small.
Or a small matter, man. So we have to know everything written in the book of Genesis, right, all the way to Revelation to the best of our ability, whether it's great or whether it's small. So with that, I yield.
Precepts.
You can pull some precepts.
Kind. Yeah. So I was just gonna start getting into the background history
Let
of.
me get one more.
All right.
Right, in the book of Nahum, chapter 1 and verse 15.
That's it. And you start with precepts.
Con, book of Nahum, chapter 1 and verse 15. Right? So we have to keep these feast days. You got brothers saying, look, it's optional. We don't really have to do it. It's not a commandment of the Lord. Certain men, these men ordained this. It's not of the Most Highs of man. Right? Well, brother, your mind not right. Because you have to understand that the Lord deals with men. Right? The Lord puts the spirit on men. Right? These are things that we break down to Christians, man. We shouldn't have to break this down to an Israelite in the truth, man. That's 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 20. Right? The Holy Spirit came upon these men and they were moved. Right? So you got it, brother.
It's the book of Nahum, chapter 1 and verse 15. Behold, upon the mountains, the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publishes peace.
To do what?
That publishes peace.
And that's what we do. We publish peace to our people, man. We ultimately speak in peace and life to Israel. Right? Because you ask them, what's the origins of Christmas? They can't tell you. Right? But we can tell you in Jeremiah the 10th chapter, it stemmed from the Babylonians. Nimrod. Right? And that's the birthday of Nimrod, December 25th. Right? Jesus Christ's birthday is not mentioned in the scriptures, man.
Right.
Right? So a lot of our people are winging it and they're blindly following traditions of men.
Right.
That's in Colossians chapter 2 and verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophies and vain deceit. Right? Keep reading on to that, brother.
It says, oh Judah.
Oh, what?
Oh
Hey,
Judah.
we Judah, man. We the real Jews, man.
Right.
brother.
Right? We the real kings of the earth. We the priests. We the gods. Right? Oh, Judah, read on.
Keep thy solemn feast.
Do what?
Keep thy solemn feast.
You have to keep the solemn feasts of the Lord. Right? That's a precept of Judges chapter 5 and verse 11. We have to rehearse these righteous acts and keep the solemn feasts. Right? Keep these sacred feasts that the Lord gave us, man. Read on.
Perform thy vows.
Do what?
Perform thy
You gotta
vows.
perform these vows, man. These are your vows, man. These are your offerings that you're giving up to the Lord. Keep reading.
For the wicked shall no more pass through thee.
What the Bible say?
For the wicked shall no more pass through
You
thee.
can't deceive us anymore, so-called white man.
Right.
We know our history.
That's right, brother.
We know where we come from. We know what our forefathers fought for. Right? They didn't want to teach you about Judas Maccabees in school.
At all.
Right? They damn sure weren't going to teach you about that. They didn't teach you about David, Solomon, right? Eleazar. They didn't teach you about these men that stood firm for the name of the Lord. Right? They didn't teach you about the 7 children in 2 Maccabees, the 7th chapter. Right? And the mother. They didn't teach you about these things because they wanted you to be ignorant of your history, man. Keep reading, brother.
Right. He is utterly cut off.
He is what?
He is utterly cut
What
off.
happened to the so-called white
He
man?
is utterly cut off.
He is utterly cut off, right? In the history of Feast of Dedications, we was cutting off Esau.
That's right.
We was cutting them down on sight, man.
That's right.
Right? Just how they war against us in today's time. You got the police brutality, police terrorism. They killing Jake wholesale, right? They putting their knee on Jake's neck, and all hell was breaking loose, right? Hey, the table's gonna turn and the table's gonna flip, so to speak, man.
Right.
And we gonna run down the so-called white man.
Got it.
We gonna put him in chains, man. And that's all praises to Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. You got it, brother.
I had a quick precept, right? This is the book of Exodus, chapter 17 and verse 16. The Lord, he said, verse like, for he said, because the Lord hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So we always gonna be dealing with Esau, man. We ain't gonna never get along. He's always gonna be warned against us, and we always gonna be warned against him. We gotta spiritually fight for this truth, man, this knowledge.
Right, bro.
Give me the book of Sirach, chapter 33, verse 14 on that. Right? So good is always set against evil. Right? The Lord hath sworn. Right? And the Most High is not a man that he should lie, nor the Son of Man that he should repent. Right? So whenever the Lord says something, he stands on it. Right? That's what Jake saying, he's standing on business. Right? Hey, the Lord standing on business, man.
Right.
Right? The Lord stand on whatever he say. Look at Jake, you gotta stand on that. Hey, the Lord standing on that, man.
Right.
Yeah, say that.
Right?
That's the whole order in the Feast of Dedication, Jacob versus Esau, man.
That's right. And a lot of our feast days like that, Purim, man, right, goes into the destruction of our enemies.
Destruction, Nicanor.
Right? Destruction of Nicanor,
Yeah, Simon.
Day of Simon. Right? So we celebrate the destruction of our enemies. Passover, our first feast day, man, is celebrating the destruction of the firstborn of the Egyptians.
Right.
Right? So how does God love everybody, man? We gotta really ask ourselves these things. But bring it out, King.
The book of Sirach, chapter 34 and verse 14.
33 and 14.
33 and 14. Good is set against evil.
What the scripture say?
Good is set against evil.
Hey, we the good, man. Israel, right? And we're set against that evil, right? We were set against Antiochus. We were set against the Greeks. Read on.
All right. And life against death.
And life against death. It was life or death situations going on back then, right? It was on site, right? You had these, we're going to read about it in First Maccabees, the first chapter, right? We got to let kind of slow roast this thing, but the Greeks, they were doing some wicked, vile, and abominable, right? Odious and sick things to our people. Read on.
All right. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly.
Read on.
So look upon all the works of the Most
You
High.
gotta look upon all the works of the Lord, right? And the things that was going on during the days of old ultimately is the work of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? Because the Most High likes to see that controversy, right? That drama, right? The Lord loves seeing war. The scripture say in Exodus 15 and 3, he's a man of war. See, the scripture say when the Lord come back, he's going to leap like a man of war. He's going to roar like a man of war, right? That's in Isaiah chapter 42, I believe the 13th verse, right? He's going to invade with his troops. Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter, right? 2nd Esdras, the 7th chapter, also states the same thing, right? Keep reading.
Right. And there are 2 and 2, one against another.
What the scripture say?
One against
What the
another.
Bible say?
One against another.
So we always going to be adverse with the so-called white man, right? It doesn't matter how much so-called white friends you have, right? It doesn't matter if your mother's white, right? It doesn't matter if you have family members that's so-called white, right? The Lord is always going to have war with the enemies, right? And all we got to do is hold our peace and righteousness, man. And the Lord is going to give us that decree to go to war and fight, man. Because it's a time and place for everything. That's in Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. Right now is the time to wake up and fight for your nation. So with that, give me Nehemiah chapter 4 and verse 14. I'm going to yield.
I gotta appreciate you.
Come on. You should want to fight for your people, right? The Lord say, who's going to stand up for me against the evildoers and against the workers of iniquity? You have to understand, you have to fight for your family, man. Right? Brothers have wives, brothers have children. Hey, we love each other within here, right? Not just going to let an Edomite just kind of break inside of the temple and just defile everything and you just not do nothing about it, man. No, you're going to fight for your brothers.
That's right.
You're going to fight for your people.
That's right.
And that's what our forefathers did, man. That's integrity. That's being a soldier. That's being a warrior. That's a real man. Not how many brothers you killed. Not how many niggas you robbed. Right? Or how much drugs you sold. No, the real men are the men that fought for their nation. Now bring that out, King.
It's the book of Nehemiah, chapter 4 and verse 14. And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not ye afraid of them.
What the Bible say?
Be not ye afraid of
You can't
them.
be afraid of the so-called white man. Right? You can't be bowed down. Yes, sir. Oh, no, okay. God loves everybody. You know, right? You can't do that, man. Be not afraid of them. Stand up.
Right.
Keep your head high. Right? And poke your chest out in righteousness, man. Be not afraid of them. Read on.
Remember the Lord.
Do what?
Remember the Lord.
Do what?
Remember Yahweh.
We got to remember Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? Because he girded us with the strength to get the victory, right? The strength is from, the victory is from on high, right? I believe it states that in the Apocrypha. The victory is not about the numbers, it's about the Most High who giveth the power. Read on.
Which is great and terrible.
Which is what?
Which is great and terrible.
And the Lord is great and terrible, right? And the Lord can just wipe away our enemies. Just have them all drop dead as we speak. Right? So you have to remember the power of the Lord, man. Don't be afraid of these nations, right? He told Israel the same thing when we inherited the land of Canaan. You had these big, dumb-looking Africans, man, right? Tall as hell, prowling, right? And Israel was kind of getting intimidated, man, right? But Joshua had to exhort them through the Spirit, man. Be not afraid because the Lord is going to fight for you. Be courageous. Be not dismayed at their looks. Keep reading.
And fight for your brethren.
And do what?
And fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses.
And your what?
And your houses.
So you got to fight for your household, right? Your household, that's a vast thing. That's talking about your actual household that consists of your children, right? Your wife. Your body is your house. So you got to fight for yourself, fight for your children, and fight for your brothers, which is your household. And we all one body, right? So, that's a vast thing. You got to fight for your nation in general.
Right.
All right. With that, I yield.
Appreciate it, bro.
And I had a precept. Get Psalms chapter 31 and verse 23.
It's the book of Psalms,
Check it out, check it out.
31 and verse 23.
Because this is what you're going to see all throughout the Bible, all throughout the future prophecies, and in the feast of dedication. You got it. Bring it up.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 31 and verse 23. Oh, love the Lord, all ye his saints.
What the Lord said?
Oh, love the Lord, all ye his
And
saints.
how do you love the Lord? By keeping the commandments.
That's right.
By keeping the faith. Like the brother said, by fighting for your nation. That's how you love the Lord, right? Bring it up.
For the Lord preserveth the faithful.
What the Lord do?
For the Lord preserveth the faithful.
All throughout the Bible, that's all you see is the Lord preserving his people from the enemy, from destruction, from war, from pestilence, from evil, right? And what do you do?
Right? And plentifully rewardeth the proud doer.
And the Lord, he got something plentifully for the evil doers, man.
Right.
The so-called white man. Esau. The other nations, man. The wicked. Right? That's what you see in Maccabees, man. Our people was loving the Lord, and what did they do? They came and invaded our land, right? And the Lord rose up the spirit of Judas Maccabees. Which we gonna get into? You got a precept?
Yeah, I got one. This one crib, another brother. This book, 2 Maccabees, chapter 15 and verse 7. But Maccabeus had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him. So actually, he had faith. That's plain.
Get Psalms 109 and verse 5.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 109 and verse 5. And it reads, and they have rewarded me evil for good and hatred for my love.
Right? That's the so-called white man.
Right.
You got another precept. It's in the book of Psalms chapter 120 and verse 7. Read it out.
The book of Psalms, chapter 120 and verse 7. I am for peace.
What are we for?
I am for peace.
Have we ever polluted the world? Have we ever killed anyone without cause? Destroyed anybody? Like the so-called white man? Declare war on another land? We have laws. If the other nations surrender, we have to be at peace with them. That's in our law. Right? So what did David say?
I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war.
And that's the so-called white man. That's all in the Maccabees, man. We was at peace in our land. We was presenting the sacrifice before the Lord. And the so-called white man, which you're going to read about, he came and invaded our land. He killed our priests. He killed our women and children. Right? Like it's saying in Exodus, he cut off the crossway, man. The Amalekites did that, man.
Right? Right? Because the scriptures also say, and we're going to bring it out. Give me the book of Sirach, chapter 8, verse 16.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 8, verse 16.
Right?
This is the book of Sirach 8 and verse 16. Strive not with an angry man.
What the Bible says?
Strive not with an angry man.
Right, and again, we was at peace, man. right? Literally, we was at peace. We had no problem with the Edomites, but they came and invaded our land, right? Unjustly for power and control, right? But the Lord said, strive not with an angry man. So we didn't start the battle. We just finished it, man. Right? Keep reading.
And go not with him into a solitary place, for blood is as nothing in his sight.
What it say?
For blood is as nothing in his sight.
Hey, blood is nothing to the so-called white
He
man.
fool blood.
He loves blood. He actually eats blood, man. Right? So that blood fuels the so-called white man. Right? What they call them adrenaline junkies. Right? You got certain people that love to kill. Right? They love to go to war, man. It does something to their spirit, man. They get off on it, and that's the so-called white man. Right? So strive not with an angry man, because blood is as nothing to him. Read on, brother.
And where there is no help, he will overthrow thee.
He will do what?
He will overthrow
He
thee.
will overthrow thee. Right? He didn't know that we had help from heaven. Right? Real quick, give me Exodus chapter 14 and verse 14.
The book of Exodus, chapter 14, and verse 14.
Right?
Right? And it reads, right? Yahweh shall fight for you.
What the Bible say?
Yahweh shall fight for you.
Hey, the Most High shall fight for you. Read on.
And ye shall hold your peace.
Now, this is in Egypt. We didn't lift up any sword or arms against the Egyptians. The Lord literally plagued them. Right? Now, during the time of Maccabees, the Lord actually put the spirit on us to fight. Right? So it's a little different, but nonetheless, the Most High was always there protecting Israel, giving us that strength within the battle.
Sending his chariots.
Sending the
They
chariots.
fall with angels.
Precept.
I had a precept too, real quick.
Just going into the Lord fighting for you, us. Yeah.
Oh, you can bring it up.
Well, I was actually going into us being at peace first.
Oh, yeah,
You can
okay.
bring out that precept, don't let me back.
Oh, it was Judith 9 and 11.
It's the book of Judith,
Bring it out.
chapter 9, and verse. See if I can do it.
Judah chapter 9 and verse 11.
Bring it up, bring it up, bring it up.
I got it. It's the book of Judith, chapter 9, and verse 11.
Right?
For thy power standeth not in multitude, nor thy might in strong men. For thou art the God of the afflicted.
Well, are the what?
Thou art the God of the afflicted.
No, he's the God of everybody.
Thou art the God of the afflicted.
Right? The Lord is the God of the afflicted, man. So whoever is being afflicted, he's the power of, man. Who's at the bottom right now? Right? Who's being discriminated without cause? Right? Bring it up.
And helper of the oppressed, an upholder of the weak, a protector of the forlorn, a savior of them that are without hope.
And that's talking about Israel.
That's right.
Right? We are the ones without hope. We are the poor. We are the main. We are the hope. Right? We are these men that need that saving and that protection. Right? And not only just the men, but also the women and children. Us as a nation, we need that supportment from the Heavenly Father. Right? Now give me the book of Exodus chapter 22 and verse 23. Start at the 22nd verse. Exodus 22:22. And this is in the law. This is an actual commandment. Right?
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 22 and verse 22.
Right?
Ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child.
And the so-called white man loves to do that. He loves to afflict the poor and the widow. Right? You had Brett Favre that just stole about $5 million from the welfare system. Right? And we know the people that's chiefly on welfare and need help. That's talking about Israel, the poor. Right? But here it is, a rich man with his Wrangler endorsements, making billions of dollars. Right? He's stealing $5 million from welfare. He could have literally went to his bank and got $5 million. Right? That just shows you the intentions behind it. Esau just hates our people naturally. Right? So you should not afflict any poor, widow, or fatherless. Read on.
Right, verse 23. If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me.
And we was crying to the Lord during the time of Maccabees. Literally crying to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua in tears. Right? Dwelling in the wilderness, we couldn't even dwell within our land. right? Because they was setting up what's it called, fort. They was fortifying the cities, right? Setting up their sanctions. All hell breaking loose. Read on.
Right? It's like, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword.
What the Lord say?
And I will kill you with the sword.
What the Lord say?
And I will kill you with the sword.
The Lord says he's going to kill the so-called white man with the sword. That's playing upon tables. He said, if these people cry unto me due to your oppression and affliction, I'm going to kill you with the sword. Read on.
Right? And your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless.
That's right. And that's coming to the so-called white man and the nations, the curses. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. They're going to grow up in single-parent homes, right? Their father's going to get put to death with the sword. Their women are going to get carried captive.
Right.
Their children are going to be fatherless. By Shema Mashiach Yahushua.
And we are fatherless. You know, so a lot of brothers don't have their fathers, so that's the thing.
No, it's definitely talking about Israel. It's Deuteronomy 28 and 54. I want to land me back on what the brother brought out. Prior to the Antiochus during the Greek Empire, we actually was at peace with the so-called white man in our land. We actually was just peacefully just dwelling, right? And then all hell started breaking loose because of one devil. Right, get 2 Maccabees chapter 3 and 1.
Bring it out.
Right, because we was literally at peace, and then war was in their heart.
And real quick, every devil allowed us to keep our culture, right? Keep our nationality, keep our heritage and history,
Chiefly.
right? The nations, they didn't have a problem with Israel serving their God, right? Everybody know Israel God, man. They knew who we served. They knew about Egypt, right? They knew what the Lord did for us. Right? They say, okay, we're going to let the Israelites, they keep their laws, keep their commandments. We actually like their laws, it's wise. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 5.
Yeah.
Right? The nations acknowledge us to be wise people.
Like
We keep
even
the laws of the Lord.
even Alexander the freak, man, he had respect for Israel. Right? We actually it's an account in history where they said he kind of went into the temple and kind of was showing them he was in the prophecy. Right? Alexander the freak. See that?
A lot of those mighty men that rose up, they knew they was in the prophecies. Right?
Yeah.
You see that with Cyrus.
Yeah.
And
He said that's why he said the Lord gave me the
the Lord gave me the strength.
the Lord
You see
gave
that?
me the land.
You see that with in First Ezra, where the king of Egypt rose up against the heathen kings, and then the king of Judah was pursuing him, and he was like, "What are you doing, king of Judah? The Lord gave me the strength." So all the nations know our God, man.
That's right.
Because he's famous, man. After he destroyed the most powerful nation of the day, the 18th dynasty of Egypt. Right, bring that up.
God, I want to say this one more thing. And a lot of these mighty men of the nations, they knew about our forefathers. They knew about Solomon. They knew about King David. They knew how we got down in the ancient world.
Thank
So
you.
a lot of them was hesitant about messing with Israel. Let me chill on Israel.
War.
These guys, they're
or-
kind of different.
Ammonite. I say, hey, man. And that's even in the book of Ezra, man. They kind of, say, hey, man, they got, mighty kings, seditions of men. They kind of had a right to them and say they had mighty kings, man. Right? These people. Right? So, hey, man, they know what's going on with Israel. Right? That's why they fear us to this day. Right? But get that. So we can touch on the feast day, the background of it, the historical background of the feast day. Right, found in prophecy in the Bible.
That's right.
Right, so you can understand the dates of when these things happened, what kings was ruling, and X, Y, Z. So brothers got to take notes and get these dates. But bring that up.
God, this is the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 3, and verse 1.
Right?
Now, when the holy city was inhabited with all peace.
Right, so it was just all peace. Right, this is during this is after Alexander. Right, the Greek. Right, can you read it?
Right? And the laws were kept very well.
Right, the Israelites was keeping the law and righteousness. Right, can you read it?
Because of the godliness of Onias the high priest and his hatred of wickedness.
Right, so you had Onias III. He was the high priest at the time. Right, can you read it?
Right? 2, it came to pass that even the kings themselves, even the kings themselves did honor the place.
Right, so even the kings honored the place. Right, can you read it?
and magnify the temple with their best gifts.
You see that? It was giving gifts to the temple, right? Because contrary to popular belief, the heathen, they can give gifts to the temple, man. Right? That's why our gates will be open in the kingdom, and the heathen go give us gifts.
That's right.
Right? And this is what was happening. They was giving gifts, XYZ, man. Right? Can you read it?
Verse 3, insomuch that Seleucus, the king of Asia,
Right? This is the salute. This is King Seleucus, right? The fourth, right? Can you read it?
right, of his own revenues, bear all the costs belonging to the service of the sacrifices.
You see that? With his own revenue, he bear the cost of the service of the sacrifice. Right? So we were at peace. But then again, one devil rose up and all hell broke loose. Right?
Right, and actually that devil was also in the scriptures and prophesied in the book of Daniel. Go get Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 7.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, and verse 7.
Right, and this is just to land me back off how we were at peace with the nations and they were at peace with us. Right, because it's no reason to just war against the nations if they're not doing anything to you. That's just being violent on the earth.
That's right.
And we're not violent people.
That's right.
But we just protect ourselves very well, man, when the Spirit of the Lord is upon us. Right? Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 7. And that's all we was doing, man. We was protecting ourselves, protecting our family. How can you get mad and blame a people for protecting themselves? Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 7.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him.
That's right. When a man ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies. And Esau is one of our chief enemies of the earth.
He is the chief enemy.
Yeah, he is the chief enemy.
And he was giving gifts.
He was giving
Antiochus.
gifts, man, and
Giving us
letting us be at peace with one another, right? Not vexing us, right? Not trying to run up in the temple, see what's going on. No, he was giving gifts, man, and honoring us and respecting us in high regards. So when you keeping the commandments, the Lord can make your enemies be at peace with you. And that's playing upon tables. That's also, I got one more. Jeremiah chapter 15 and verse 11.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15, verse 11.
God.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15 and verse 11.
God.
It reads, the Lord said, verily it shall be well with thy
And
remnant.
it has always been a remnant, right? Even during the days of Maccabees. Because you had Israelites that were selling out. Actually, majority of the Israelites.
Right.
Yeah,
Right? But you always got that remnant, that select few that don't bow down to the image of Baal.
No matter what.
Right? Keep reading.
Right? Verily I will cause the enemy to entreat thee well in a time of evil and in a time of affliction.
Right? So the Lord will cause your enemies to entreat you well in the time of evil and in the time of affliction, man. Right? And that happens a lot of the times, man. You know. Hey, Esau kind of give you extra hours, you know what I'm saying? Kind of move you up in the ranks at work, right? You like, what the hell is that devil, right? But guess what, man? The Lord is putting that spirit on him to allow him to entreat you well, right? He bow down to you, giving you money, right? You're like, what the hell? You know, you kind of scratching your head, like, why is the enemy being so nice right now? Well, your ways please the Lord, brother. You're doing something right. You're keeping the commandments. You got the faith. You're sincere. You have integrity. So the Lord is allowing these enemies to entreat you well and give you blessings in the life.
God. Right. So now I want to touch on. We're gonna touch on what ended up happening after this peaceful period. Like that's like Daniel 8 and 8.
And real quick, I get one more. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 8.
It's the holy book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3.
Right, because you have to understand there's different times. You have times of peace, you have times of war.
That's right.
Right?
It's the holy book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3 and verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate.
It was a time to love. It was a time to be at peace. But now it's the time to hate. Right? You think the Maccabees brothers was just loving us? I love the Greeks. I love them. I love Antiochus. Even though he killing my people, he killing my children, he killing everybody I ever knew in my life, but I still gotta love him.
You gotta love them.
Right? And Christianity is wicked. Right? Bring it out.
Sickness.
Right? A time of war and a time of peace.
A time of what?
And a time of war and a time of peace.
Right, so during this time, right, during the time of Alexander the Greek, it was a time of peace, man. Right? But now it's a time of war. right? When the damn Antiochus kind of came in power and took control.
You're damn double, man.
You got it.
Demon.
Right, because the thing also with Antiochus is, we just gonna break it down. Get Daniel 8 and 8,
The Holy Book of Daniel,
right?
chapter 8 and verse 8.
Right?
Daniel chapter 8 and verse 8.
Right?
It says, therefore, the he-goat waxed very great.
Right, kind of know what brothers know who the he-goat is.
Of the Greeks.
Right, that's the Greeks, right? That's verse 21, where it says the rough he-goat is the king of Grecian. Right? So this he-goat is talking about Alexander, or the Greeks, and then it's going into Alexander. Right, can you read it?
And when he was strong,
When he was strong, when he got power over all these nations, right?
and when he was very, it's like the great horn was broken.
The great horn was broken, right? He died, right? Alexander the Freak died, right? He was broken.
I'll get this the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1. Here's the precept on it, because again, Daniel prophesied about these times. You got it, brother.
It's the book of First Maccabees 1 and verse 1. And it
Yeah.
happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece.
I was just gonna say that's literally what it's talking about. It was the first over Greece. He smitten Darius. All right, that's the battle of Gaugamela.
And that's 331 BC.
Can you read?
Yeah, go on, keep reading.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth.
So the Greeks was taking down all the nations.
God.
That's plain, right?
Really.
They were taking down the nations. Keep reading.
Right? And went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, in so much.
Cobblestone. That's not the rock we're referring to.
No, no,
We're referring to Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua as the rock, meaning the strength and the power. Right? A rock is powerful, man. Get hit in the head with a rock, man. See what happened to you, man.
Oh,
Like stone with a rock.
Get stoned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, David a stone at Goliath's head, man. Right? And knocked him out of his frame. You understand? You got it.
And my fortress, and my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I will trust, my buckler, and horn of my salvation.
And the what?
And the horn of my salvation.
And the horn of my salvation, meaning he's the strength of our salvation.
Good.
You understand? Right? And you got different animals that have horns, man. That's how they attack you, man. That's how they defend themselves with their horns. Right?
That's the strength of these different animals, especially like a goat.
You got
Like a ram.
goats, you got bulls.
Rhinos.
You got a rhino that has a horn.
gazelles.
So yeah,
That's Ephraim.
Alexander's the strength. He's the first king of the Greeks. You go to Daniel 8,
God.
verse 8,
That in the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great,
right?
and when he was strong, the great horn was broken.
Right?
And for it came up 4 notable ones.
Right, 4 notable ones, 4 different kings took over. Right, Seleucus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Lacedaemon. Right, these are 4 different kings that took over.
And these men that came up with Alexander the Greek.
Right, can you
Their
read?
youth.
Towards the 4 winds of heaven.
Right, so they're divided into 4 different men. And you read that when you read First Maccabees. You continue to read, you will see he set his servants up, and they set they men up after them. That's known as the Wars of Diadachi. Right, they had a bunch of wars and fought to them earn this power.
Man.
Right, and 4 of these men. Right, yeah, the 4 horns, man. Right, and it's going into these 4 men. So, right, keep reading.
God. Verse 9. And out of one them came forth a little horn.
And out of these men came forth a little horn. Now, this little horn is that devil, man. Antiochus. Right, the goddamn one of the worst heathen that existed, man.
The homosexual.
Right, get First Maccabees 1 and 10. Right, out of them came a little horn. That's Antiochus, the 4th. Right?
Antiochus Epiphanes the 4th.
The mad.
And we're gonna go into that name Epiphanes as well.
The
Yeah,
mad.
double, man.
Right? Because that name actually means to be like God, or to be like the Most High. So Esau perceived that he was the Most High. That's what he thought. He thought he was the Lord, man.
Gotta
And
get
that's in
that.
Isaiah the 14th chapter.
This man Antiochus is a key character in where the whole Maccabean Revolt Feast of Dedications.
And then kind of the Bible too, because you start seeing how our people are Hellenized. You understand?
He's
the New
prophesied
Testament.
all throughout the Bible.
You gotta understand this.
This man is he's an important wicked figure, man. Like knowing Cain or Esau
Yeah, and this man was
Or
what you call a tyrant.
or Cain. It's like
A tyrant. Can you look up that word real quick, Ken? Just real quick. You gotta go to the definitions. Right? The word tyrant. You got different types of men in the scriptures. You
Right.
have men of integrity, right? You had men that were homosexuals, man. In Genesis the 19th chapter. You had men that committed adultery in the scriptures, right?
it says, especially in ancient Greece. Check that out. But seized power without legal right.
Especially in ancient
And
Greece.
Con, let's get that real quick in Daniel 11, real quick.
That's hey, bro. Hey, bro.
Right, get Daniel 11 and verse 21 real quick. Because we gotta go, because hey, he actually seized power without legal right. When you look into Antiochus' history, how he came up, he kind of did it through flattery and lies and folly, man. Right? He kind of was lying to people. We can actually pull it up.
So this man is just a wicked, evil doer. He can't help himself. He had to commit wickedness on the earth because ultimately the Lord gave him over to that spirit. Right? That was his lot. That's what he was preordained to do on the earth.
Literally, it's prophesied. Yeah, Daniel 11 and 21. Check this
It's
out.
the holy book of Daniel.
This guy, man.
Chapter 11,
Dope,
verse
man.
21. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person.
A what?
A vile person.
A vile person. Right? This is Antiochus. That's what it's talking about, right? Can you read it?
Right?
Right?
To whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom.
Hold on. They didn't give him the honor of the kingdom. They didn't see him as the rightful king. Right? Can you read it?
But he shall come in peaceably
But he shall what?
He shall come in peaceably.
He shall come in peaceably, read.
and obtain the kingdom by flattery.
He obtained the kingdom with flatteries, man.
That's the so-called white man.
So Antiochus was a chief devil, man. Real quick, before you look up Antiochus the fourth real quick. Because I want to show you this is actually in history, man. So the Bible is a prophetic book. And Daniel told you about this man hundreds of years before he came. He literally obtained the kingdom with flatteries. And that actually happened in history. Right, this Antiochus the fourth. Put that and scroll down to ruling style.
God.
You can scroll down a little bit. It's in the biography. It say ruling style.
And the Bible's a history book.
You can even look into the rise of power, but I'm gonna look into ruling style. Check it out. It says Antiochus the fourth cultivated a reputation as an extravagant and generous ruler. He scattered money to common people in the streets of Antioch, gave unexpected gifts to people he did not know, contributed money to the temple of Zeus and Anthus and the altar of Delos. Right, so this man literally got the kingdom with flatteries. Read that again in Daniel 11 and 21
This
again.
is the book of
This is
Daniel.
in the Bible, but this is history.
That's plain.
Right, bring it out,
That's the
man.
book of Daniel to the 11 and verse 21.
Right?
And in his estate
In
shall,
his estate,
shall stand up a vile person.
Antiochus stood up, a vile man, right? Read.
To whom they should not give the honor of the
He
kingdom.
didn't have the honor of the kingdom. Even when you read up, it says Antiochus, born around 215 BC, was the son of Seleucus the king, Antiochus III. As a potential successor to the throne, he became a political hostage of the Roman Republic under the terms of the treaty of or however you say that, the Appian. Right, so he wasn't even supposed to even be there, man.
Really cool, like,
Right, he was a damn hostage in Rome. But hey, he kind of got out, kind of finessed, right? He kind of usurped his way to the throne, man.
seafood, man.
Yeah.
Right, and that's right. Keep reading that Daniel, man.
It says, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom.
Right.
But he shall come in peaceably.
He shall come in peaceably.
Right, and obtain the kingdom by flattery.
He got the kingdom literally by flatteries. That's actually in the Bible and history. Can't get around it. Right?
God, give me the book of First Ezra chapter 5 and verse 73. I got a few
First
precepts.
Ezra 5.
See that?
Now, although this is talking about the building of the temple, right? I'm gonna make a point. First Esdras chapter 5 and verse 73. So this is what the heathen was doing to hinder the building of the temple.
That
Right?
This is the book of First Ezra chapter 5 and verse 73. And by their secret plots.
By their what?
And by their secret plots.
So you have men that have secret plots and secret schemes.
Councils.
Right? They have ulterior motives. Right? And that's in Sirach, the 6th chapter. Some man is a friend for his own occasion, but will not abide in the day of trouble. Right? So that's the spirit of the so-called white man. The so-called white man, he'll buy you a cup of coffee. Right? He'll buy you a donut, man. He'll take you out. Right? He'll ask you, do you want something? Right? Hey, you want something, man? It's early in the morning. I can pick you up some breakfast. Right? They know, man. I don't accept nothing from the so-called white
At
man.
all.
Right? That literally just happened to me and Aina the other day, man. That Edomite offering us breakfast. And we turned it down,
That's
man.
happened to me at work.
Eat not the bread of him that have an evil eye. That's in Proverbs the 23rd chapter. No telling what they'll do to that food, man. And that destroys your spirit as well. You kind of water down for Esau. Oh, he did buy me this. Not that bad. You know, he did kind of do this for me. So that's why the Lord said, gift destroyeth the heart. We're going to get precepts on that. But the scriptures say by their secret plots. And read on.
And popular persuasions.
And what?
And popular persuasions.
And popular persuasions. You have men on the earth that are mass manipulators. And that's the spirit of the so-called white man. You know how, the so-called white man know how to talk to people, man. Right? He kind of slick with his words.
Right.
You know, he a little witty. You know, we met Edomites like that, man. It was one particular Edomite me and Yardan was dealing with, man. He was slithering his way out of every question. Everything. And it was pretty good. He did a good job at it, man. But us being men of the Lord, we can see through the so-called white man. We know he's a devil. But a simple-minded, a so-called Negro man, he's not going to get the understanding. He's going to fall for everything.
That's why they so mind controlled by him now.
Yeah.
Because he know what he's doing. Man, you can read these so-called books that they have, and you can see that they got so-called psychology behind everything. How to sell anything and how to win the room and you read it and if you practice it, it'll work. So it's like that's some kind of witchcraft, man.
Like a William Lynch letter, man. That's a whole psychological breakdown.
Yeah.
Wickedness.
And that's the thing, they did that and they do it with sales or how to do X, Y, Z, but imagine them doing it on the left-hand side as far as how can we control the masses and have them do X, Y, Z. They can do it on any level, man.
That's the money.
They're masters at that.
Right.
Deception.
And real quick, that's not an easy thing to do, man. To just be deceptive and be a liar, man. Us in our spirit, Jake can't lie for nothing, man. Jake can't lie for nothing. Even when you try to lie, you get caught up. You know, your face kind of change. You know, we know you're lying, brother. You know, you're stuttering. You're answering too quick. You know what I'm saying?
You're looking nervous.
You're looking nervous. You're sweating. You're looking down.
Esau even got tactics on that, knowing how you lying.
Yeah.
The police, the way they question you, everything is a tactic and mental manipulation, bro. Esau. That's mad.
I got a precept too.
No, listen. Just like this might be deep for certain brothers. Just like Abel, it's like Cain. And the most I asked him, he said, "Hey, where's your brother?" He said, "My brother's keeper." Hey, just kind of trying to get around him, man. What you mean by
He didn't
that?
say he did nothing.
Am I my brother's keeper? He tried to use wisdom on the Lord, bro. That's crazy,
That's
bro.
wicked as hell.
That's
Get 2 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 3. Right? So you had Absalom, man. Get 2 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 3. You got certain men in the scriptures that's manipulative.
Deceitful.
They're very deceitful. They know how to talk, right? What they call it, they call them slickers.
They do that to get their way.
What older Jake called them type of people, man?
Slick back.
A slick back, a slick talker.
I know what you're talking about.
That's
That's another word, though.
And you got Jakes like that. You got Jakes that's
Pastors,
slick talkers. Pastors.
Well, yeah.
Pastors is like that.
That's
They in that
literally
spirit.
exactly what they are.
I seen the pastor.
Please.
I was at my mom. And the pastor was on the news. This man had on regular Jake dreads and a buffs on the news. I'm like, in a chain. And it said pastor of such and such church. I'm like, that's bad.
And you got a pastor that said he's persuading the people that he can grow weed in the back of the church, man.
Yeah,
And people are believing that.
That's madness. Get 2 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 3.
This book is 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 3.
Right.
Bro.
And Absalom said unto him, see, thy matters are good and right. And it's like, but there is no man deputed of the king to hear thee.
Right, so he kind of using slick words, man. It is no man deputed of the king to hear thee. Right, so he's alluding to the people that he's that man you need to come to hear your matters. Right? So he's using slick words, he's slick talking, he's manipulating the people, he's finessing. Read on.
Right? Verse 4. Absalom said, moreover, O thou were made judge in the land, that every man which have any suit or cause might come unto me, and I would do him
So
justice.
look, he trying to get the preeminence, man. Oh, that I would judge in the land. If only if I was that guy. You know, if
Yeah,
only if I was him. See, that's why y'all.
Man, if
man
I was in rulership,
Yeah,
I was a
that's
high
fair.
priest.
Yeah, so that's why you
I
need a
was
man
doing-
like me. You know, so he's slick talking, he's manipulating the people. And you gotta
Oh.
picture it with Salt, man. He's not just saying this and kind of looking stale with it. He kind of finessing, he's smiling, he's doing
What I
like
would do
this.
is just-
You know, he might be cracking, he cracking
you gotta
jokes.
picture Jake.
Yeah, you gotta
doing
picture
it.
Jake doing this.
Dang, he did that.
Yeah.
If I was the king, man, I would have, you know what
I'm
I'm
gonna read that
saying?
again. I'm gonna
Read that again. huh?
It's 2 Samuel 15, verse 1.
That never happened if I was ruling.
And,
man.
and this is the son of the king, man.
Yeah.
It says, and Absalom said, moreover, oh, that I were made judge in the land, that every man which have any suit or cause might come unto me, and I would do him justice.
Keep reading.
And it was so
I do it right.
that when any man came nigh to him to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand and took him and kissed him.
Meaning embrace these people that was coming to him, man. So essentially what he was doing, he was finessing them, right? He was manipulating these people
On the left hand side.
on the left hand side. You know, Israel is simple, right? You know, he Absalom, right?
David
He got a name, he got a name for himself. They're like, okay, he must be that guy.
That's the heir to the throne.
You know,
That's
he must be a righteous man.
He's
But
David.
he's
Take it
deceiving
simple
these
like
people.
that.
Dave's son.
Yeah. Keep reading.
That's literally David's son, though.
Yeah.
And
That's all.
on this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment.
And David didn't know about these things, man. This is something that he's doing in secret,
Secret council.
right? Secret councils, popular persuasions. Read on.
That's what Antiochus did, man.
Yeah.
It says that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the man of Israel.
He did what?
Absalom stole the hearts of the man of
He
Israel.
stole their hearts, man.
Mine.
He stole their mind.
That's Esau.
They were captivated by it, man. Now this man can do no wrong in your eyes.
Esau.
Like the pastor in the church, man.
And then,
You can't tell the people in the congregation that they pastor not wicked, man. They gonna call you the devil, man.
you children the same, man.
Right? They ain't going for that. Right? They gonna pay them tithes. They gonna exhort you to pay your tithes. Right? I seen a video like that, man.
man.
Yeah, the Jake, he was like, I ain't about to pay.
His wife forced his
I ain't
wife-
about to
Hey,
give
he
you
forced
all
his
my
son,
money.
man.
Why you say you taking change?
And then you had the ninja woman in the back
That's
saying,
his
you
wife.
gotta pay your
And that's
tithes.
his wife, man.
And that was his
Pastor
wife.
Persuade your wife to persuade you.
Yeah, that's madness.
Damn.
The
You got house
point
out
is,
of order.
that's right. So the point is, man, yeah, that's madness. You got a point.
Yeah, I had a point. I seen this clip, man. This pastor, basically, it was one of them like Judge Judy kind of thing. And it was a pastor and a deacon. The deacon was suing him because he was sleeping with his wife.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the little, what they call the little secretary lady said he was sleeping with him too. Then the judge, when they asked him about it, I ain't never heard no pastor doing that. The pastor, he was like, he said,
He said I'm not the only one.
yeah, he said I'm not the only one, basically. In so many words.
She said, you need to retire. He said, hey, you know, it is what it is. I got
That
a
was
freestyle.
awful.
Secretary.
Literally sleeping with the deacon wife, man. And he kind of said, it ain't my fault. She slept with me or something. The pastor was saying.
So I didn't.
This is the Christianity church,
I
man.
didn't enforce her. He said,
That's wicked,
And this,
man.
and real Salaki, real quick, all this goes back to Antiochus, man. Right? The fact that he's a manipulator, because he's the chief guy that does this. Right? You got Joel Osteen, he's also a pastor. They found $200,000 in his church walls, just lingering. And he probably forgot about that money. That's probably something short to
Little-
it. You
little
know,
safe, man.
little 200,000, it's all good.
Forgot
He
about it.
probably had damn millions in his bank, man. And why you put it in the church walls? That's so secretive.
That's tough.
It just like, what are you doing, man?
That means it's all about money.
Preparing for the day.
I had a
What?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say real quick. I actually saw a Catholic priest that was like asking the people for money. And he was saying that they tithes it was short. He was wearing an $80,000 watch in the video.
Oh, wow.
$80,000.
The Catholic priests, they have their own banks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do gotta get back,
Nah.
man.
I had a quick point real quick.
Let's talk back
This
to
is,
it.
Absalom real quick. This is 2 Samuel 14 verse
So
25.
Absalom was off.
It says, but in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. For the sole of his foot, even to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him. So sometimes, you know, Jake or even like Eve, they probably start believing in this man because he's somewhat handsome. But that don't mean you just follow him because he's handsome with wise words and he persuading you. You know, you get lost.
Beautiful spirit too.
Yeah, that happened with Eve, man.
Cause you got
Jake with Eve.
you got men that's wicked, but they might have a likable personality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They might can make you laugh. They might be funny guys. You know what I'm saying? They might, they just got an aura about themselves. That's what they call it, so-called aura about themselves.
Charismatic.
Yeah, charismatic.
That's
You know,
what
but they
it is.
wicked as hell, man. And they got ulterior motives. And that's the so-called white man to the T. Right? That's Proverbs.
You can have a
26 to
full
25.
conversation with. You got cool conversations with Edomites. You can talk to Edomites all the time. They make you feel good.
Yeah.
They'll damn uplift you and say, hey man, let me get you some. Whatever. Yeah, they agree with you. Like, yeah, I don't agree with slavery, but that was bad,
Man,
man.
they always do the touching. That's some psychology, man.
That's what I'm saying. Esau, double.
No,
man.
no,
I'm telling you, man.
That's why you got. That's why the scripture say, never trust thine enemy. Like you can have a conversation with them and you can
Full
learn
long
stuff,
conversations with
but
Esau.
never trust
And they
them.
be trying to teach you stuff and, hey, I can help you with your XYZ, and they be kind of breaking stuff down to you and make you feel like,
You
oh,
need a
this,
job?
this could be a
You
good
know, I
part.
know somebody who got a job.
Yeah.
I got a cousin.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
But Jake simple, like you said, the simple Jake could be like,
And-
not so bad.
and with a
That's
pastor.
why you can't tell Esau, the so-called white man, the double, because it's like, you know,
God, get Proverbs 26, 25.
God, you said 26.
Yeah, Proverbs chapter 26, verse 25. Yup. So this all goes back to the so-called white man, Antiochus Epiphanes. So that's what we're reading about right now. That's what we're going into. We're getting linking precepts to validate the spirit of this man. Right? You got it. Proverbs 26 to 25. This is a classic precept.
God, it's the book of Proverbs 26 and verse 25.
right?
It says, when he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart.
There are 7 abominations in his heart when he speaketh fair. Right? So the so-called white man speak sweet and peacefully. That's what it means to be fair, beautiful.
Right.
Right? You speak beautiful. Right? Read on.
God.
But what?
For the Slakia, who's you want to read it again?
Yeah.
God, this is the book, Proverbs 27, verse 25. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart, whose hatred is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be shewed before the whole congregation.
That's it.
So like you said, you had a precept, let me back.
Genesis chapter 25 and 27.
God.
You know, it's the book, but you gotta examine the verses, man.
Right.
Go back to the basics.
So Genesis 25, 27?
Come on.
God.
I want to get back to this day.
Book of Genesis, chapter 25, and verse 27. And it reads, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter.
And what?
And Esau was a cunning hunter.
So you gotta be real wise to hunt. You gotta know like certain animal calls. You gotta know how to entrap certain animals,
You gotta know the natures of beasts.
nature of the beast, and also you gotta Esau know the nature of people, man.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Psychology, so-called. That's the study of the human mind or something.
It doesn't just say he was hunting animals.
Yeah.
Esau's a cunning hunter in general, man.
Like you know the reasonings of men. Like Solomon, he knew the reasoning of men. So he was a psychologist. You know, and that's skillful. You know, that's a skillful thing to have.
I got another
To
precept.
understand people.
Psalms 55 and 21. I'm gonna get back to Daniel.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 55, and verse 21. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but there was war in his heart.
Right? That's the so-called white man. I'm your friend. Right? I can do no harm. I can't harm the fly.
I'm your friend to the end.
I'm your friend too.
Chuck E.
I'm a
Scrooge.
pacifist.
Yeah.
Right? And then he's just so soft and fragile. Like,
Yeah, on
hey,
the
bro,
outside.
On the outside, but on the inside, he's having an abomination in his heart, man. So his words was smoother than oil, man. You know Jake loved the lotion, man. You love that oil.
You love to hear sweet things.
Esau gonna tell you what you love to hear.
Oh, yeah, cool.
That's the so-called white man.
God.
He's gonna tell you what you love to hear.
Yeah, I got goddamn dope.
I gotta find a precept. This book is Sirach,
Yeah.
13.
Oh, okay. You got a preset?
I had a question though. Could you repeat those 4 kings and Daniel 8?
Okay.
It was solutions.
Oh, you got Seleucus,
That's some back case.
Ptolemy,
Cast on
you got
that.
Cassider,
That's
Lysimachus is kind of, they gotta spell it, it's like L-Y.
Well, you gotta.
It might not pop
We'll
up.
figure it out.
Try
The
that.
spelling kind of, but let's go back to Daniel.
Yeah,
too.
right here.
One of them is Lysimachus,
Yeah, it's kind of.
cause he had generals, but they was the Diadachi Wars, and they end up getting set up, those 4 men. But yeah, let's deal with it. Go to Daniel 8 and 8.
It's the book of
Or 8
Daniel.
and 9, sorry.
It's the book of Daniel, chapter 8 and verse 9.
Right?
And out of one of them came forth a little horn.
Right, that's Antiochus, right? And I'm gonna get this quick precept. First Maccabees 1 and 10. It says, and there came out of them a wicked root. Antiochus, surname Epiphanes, which means God manifest. It says, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, like we read, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Now, he started reigning in 175 BC. It's important to understand this date, because we're going to get the date of the actual Feast of Dedications when it was established. Right? Because, people, they ask you about your feast days, you got to know what's going on. The exact date and everything. Right? So Antiochus started reigning in 175 BC. That was the 137th year of the Greeks. So we got to note and remember that. We go to Daniel 8 and 9. Can you read that?
Right? And out of one of them came forth a little horn,
Right?
which waxed exceeding great
Right?
towards the south.
Toward the south. That's talking about Egypt. Right? The 6th Syrian War. I'm going to read it. And this is all in First Maccabees. Right? First Maccabees 1 and 16. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over it. Right? That's him waxing toward the south. Right? Keep reading.
It says, which waxed exceeding great towards the south and towards the east and
Right.
towards the pleasant land.
Towards the east. Now the east is over there dealing with the Persians. Right? And then the pleasant land, of course, is Israel. And that's what he did. He did how he dealt with the Israelites. He actually conquered the pleasant land, Israel. And that's where you go into the whole act of the abomination of the desolations. Right? And we can keep reading.
And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
Even to the host of heaven, right?
And it cast down some of the hosts
Right?
and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them.
And that's talking about him trying to Hellenize the Jews and do all these wicked, abominable things to them. Right? You got a point?
Yeah, can't get this is the book of Genesis, chapter 37 and verse 9. And it reads thus. And this is going into Israel being the stars. That's what it means when they say he cast the stars to the ground. Right? It's not an actual, you can't read this on a carnal level. You got an actual horn going up into the heavens and casting stars to the ground. It doesn't make any sense. Right? So this is Genesis chapter 37 and verse 9. And it reads thus. And he dreamed yet another dream. This is talking about Joseph, our forefather. And told it his brethren, and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon, right? And the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Right? Who are those 11 stars? Those Joseph's brothers. Right? So the stars essentially are the Israelites. You understand? It's a so-called metaphor. Right? Because we are the stars of the earth, man. They praise us, right? Everybody loves us. Everybody marvel at us when they look at us. Just like you do with the stars. We the light of the world. We got the commandments. right? We have the understanding, so we're the stars, right? And that's plain, man.
Precept was
Genesis 37 and 9.
that? Con.
And I got another precept real quick.
Revelation.
It's the book of Revelation. Yeah, you can bring it out, Revelations 12.
That's the book of Revelation, chapter 12. Look at one.
The one.
All right, it's the book of Revelation 12, verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
How many stars?
A crown of 12
The
stars.
12 stars represents the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. That's who the 12 stars represents. So we are the stars that Antiochus stomped to the ground. Meaning Hellenized us, took our, our land, essentially took our temple, and just did all manner of freakism with it.
Get Daniel 11 and 28 is going more into how he stamped on the stars.
Book of Daniel, chapter 11, and verse.
Right, because from 21 on down, this is all going into Antiochus to tell you how he attacked Egypt and everything. Right, but for the sake of time, we ain't gonna read the whole thing, but it goes into the exact battle of the Sixth Syrian War.
It's the book of
All right.
Daniel, chapter 11, and verse 12.
No, 28,
It's like in 28.
right?
And it reads, then shall he return to his land with great riches.
And you read that when you read First Maccabees 16 on down. He actually conquered Egypt and took the spoils. He returned to his land, right? Can you read it?
And his heart shall be against the holy covenant.
His what?
And his heart shall be against the holy
And
covenant.
his heart shall be against the holy covenant. I'm actually read this in First Maccabees 1 and verse 19. Or actually 18. It says, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strongholds of the land and took the spoils thereof. Right? Daniel is perfectly prophesying this with keen detail. Right? And it says, and after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year. Remember, he started reigning in the 137th year. Right? So this would be 169 BC. It says, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered into the sanctuary and took the golden altar and the candlestick and all the vessels thereof. So he went in proudly and kind of took everything out the temple, right after he conquered Egypt. And that's what we just read, right? Read that in Daniel 11 and 28.
It's the book of Daniel, chapter 11. See, verse 28.
Right?
Then shall he return to his land with great riches.
We just read that, read.
And his heart shall be against the holy covenant.
His heart was against the Israelites, the holy covenant, right, read?
And he shall do exploits and return to his own land.
Right, he did wicked different deeds all throughout the land, man. Right, and then he returned back to his land. He ended up coming back and really started getting it in with Israel and wickedness. Right? And you can actually read that. Let's get us 2 Maccabees. Some of the acts that this man was doing. Right? 2 Maccabees chapter 6. Right? The whole 7th chapter is off, but get 2 Maccabees chapter 6. Right in verse number 10.
The book of
Or
2
verse number 9.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 6 and verse 9.
Right?
It says, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles shall be put to death.
Shall be put to death.
No, I didn't die.
Shall be put to death, right? You read it?
Then might a man have seen the present misery.
You see that? So, and he said, if you didn't follow the ordinance of Antiochus, Hellenization, you got put to death, man. Right? Can you read it?
For there were 2 women brought
Right?
who had circumcised their children.
Right? They circumcised their children. Guess what? The Holy Covenant. That sign of that covenant was the circumcision.
Leviticus 12 and 3.
Right? And he stayed harped on the fact that they couldn't circumcise themselves. Right? Can you read it?
Just to be evil and wicked.
Hey, what's the point? That's just off. Why you worried about another man's bride, man? Why is it off for me to... That's wicked, man, right? Can you read it? That's off, man.
Whom, when they had openly led round about the city,
Right, so the women, they kind of was being bold. Like, yeah, we circumcise them, it is what it is.
Mighty
Right?
sisters in this thing.
Right? Can you read it?
the babes hang, it's like hanging at their breasts.
Right?
They cast them down headlong from the wall.
So they threw the baby off the wall because they were
Head first.
circumcised head first. Right? Can you read it? This is different exploits that Antiochus was doing. Right? Can you read it?
And others that had run together into the caves nearby
Right?
to keep the Sabbath day secretly,
They had to keep it secretly, right? Read,
right? Being discovered to Philip,
right?
were all burnt together.
We're what?
We're
We're
all
all
burnt
burnt
together.
together. Right? So you had a group of men, women, and children that got burnt alive for keeping the Sabbath day. And people say, hey man, our forefathers, they was killed to vote, man. So you should vote. But our forefathers was killed to keep the Sabbath, man. So we gonna keep the goddamn Sabbath.
That's right.
What's going on, Ken?
So, that I understand that they was killed to keep the Sabbath. So what I'm kind of thinking about, like, do you still get punished for like what you call it? Let's just say during the time of Antiochus, would you still be getting punished for those sins that you commit when the Most High had put us in that captivity, knowing we wasn't able to do certain things?
Oh no, these men they kept it secretly because they like even when you continue to read this chapter, Eleazar rather die than eat pork. Right, so at the end of the day, you gotta be willing to die for your Lord and your laws.
I got a specific precept. Get 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 29. Right, because even in affliction, you have to keep the commandments. Even in
That was
affliction,
a test of their faith.
right? Because I mean, it's easy to keep the commandments when you're not going through nothing. You know, all you gotta do is just keep the commandments. You're not catching no type of hell, no affliction. It's easy to keep the commandments. But this was a test of faith and a test of your works. What are you really gonna do when the going gets tough? When it's crunch time? When the devil is coming down on
It's
you?
gonna happen again.
What you gonna forsake the laws of the Lord? Because you say, oh, it's affliction. I gotta be wise. I can't keep the Sabbath no more. It's affliction. No, you still gotta keep the Shabbat day. Because that was a day that the Lord gave to Israel. He didn't say only keep the Sabbath when things are going good.
Right.
You know, bring out 2nd Ezra 8:29.
It's the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 8 and verse 29. It says, let it not be thy will to destroy them, which have lived like beasts, but to look upon them that have clearly taught the law.
Now get verse 27. That's what I want.
Verse 27, so like, regard not the wicked inventions of the heathen.
Right? The Lord is not regarding the wicked inventions of the heathen. He's going to deal with the heathen. He's going to bring down that judgment and the hammer to the nations. So don't regard the wicked inventions of the heathen, but what?
Right? But the desire of those that keep thy testimonies in affliction.
And what?
In affliction.
So they kept the testimonies even within affliction. That's what the Lord is going to desire. That's what the Lord is going to, you know, exalt in that day. Those that kept the testimonies even when they was being afflicted, right? Even when they had every reason to just kind of just forsake the law. You know, they seeing their children get put to death. They seeing their wives get put to death. Everybody they grew up with is dying, right? That's an excuse to just give up right then and there. So guess what? These men said, nah, man, we got to stand on our integrity. We got to keep these laws of the Lord. Although we've been afflicted, we're going to keep the Shabbat day. That's all you got is the Lord at that point. So why forsake the Lord and get down with the heathen? You got it.
I got a precept. This is the book of 1 Maccabees, to the 9 and verse 10. Then Judas said, God forbid that I should do this thing and flee away from them. If our time be come, let us die manfully for our brethren.
And that's when the battle wax happened. And it was short. There was what is it called when you're short of soldiers? I know it's a word for it, right? But the point is, they was short of soldiers, and the battle waxed hot. And you got men talking about, let's just run away.
Yeah, it was
Let's just go. And they was just go, Judas. Let's just go. They probably was down crying. They looking in his eyes, please. They pleading, they begging. And he like, man, God forbid, man. What the hell are you talking about?
These men was, and their brothers talking about they just a group of Israelites ordained this. Man, come
And they
on,
just
man.
said,
These are, come on, now.
Ultimately, it was ordained by the Lord through these men,
Look at what these men.
right?
That's crazy. They had that. He had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him.
He said, look, man, I'm gonna rather die than run from these heathens, man. Straight like that.
There's more on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says,
I'd rather.
Slacken, let us not stain our honor. That's what
Let us not stain our honor. That makes sense, brother?
Yeah.
God, all praises.
Because it's gonna happen again, brother.
You got
Right?
it.
We gonna have the third abomination of desolation. But all hell gonna break loose.
That's Revelation 12 and
So we gotta
17.
kind of hide and keep the Shabbat and all kind of stuff, man. So we can't kind of just say, yo, man, I'm just gonna kind of trade in my fringes and bow down to the white man. All right, that's all.
Because I'm being
Or
afflicted.
you gonna cut a couple off so they don't show.
That's wicked. Get Daniel 8. We back at Daniel 8, verse 11. So he set the stars, man, started persecuting the saints, Hellenizing them, forcing them to be Greeks, and burning them alive. Right, yeah, 8 and, no, it's like 8 and 11.
Okay. It's the book of Daniel 8 and verse 9. Again,
No, we had 11, so like,
you had, I think we was at 11, King.
yeah, we had 11. We had
I'm
11.
saying, that's one with Daniel.
No, Daniel 8 and 11,
Okay. It's the book of Daniel to the 8 and verse 11.
right?
Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
Right, that's, God manifests, epiphanies, right? You read it?
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away,
Right?
and a place of his sanctuary was cast
You
down.
see that by him, the holy city and sanctuary was defiled. Right? Get 2 Maccabees 6 and 1. He actually set up a false god in the temple, man. Right, in pure wickedness. Right, bring that up, man.
It's the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 6 and verse 1.
Right?
Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the law of their fathers
Fuck.
and not to live after the laws of
You
God.
see that? So he's trying to Hellenize these Jews, right? Saying, look, man, kind of forsake the laws of your fathers. Get Daniel 11 real quick. Or I can get it real quick. Daniel 11. Yeah, Daniel 11. And get, and start at 31.
It's the book of Daniel, chapter
Right.
11 and verse 31. And arms shall stand on his part,
Right?
and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength,
We just read that, right?
and shall take away the daily sacrifice.
Right?
And they shall, they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate,
Right, that's what we reading about, right? The abomination of desolations. Keep reading.
and such as do, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries.
And this is the same way he got in rulership, corrupting it with flatteries. Right? He's gonna do that same, he was doing that same exact thing with the Jews. How you think he compelled them? How do you compel Jake to do things like that? With money. Not just that, he forced them with money too. Right? Because when you read First Maccabees,
Jason.
yeah, he had him, Second Maccabees, he did set up Jason. But even with that, I'm saying in First Maccabees, the 2nd chapter, let's just get it. First Maccabees chapter 2, and verse number 17. Right? This is them corrupting, or them that basically say to hell with God's covenant, he corrupted with flatteries. Right? You offer Jake money, man. Right? Bring this up.
It's the book, First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 17.
Right?
Then answered the king's officers,
Right.
and said to Mattathias on this wise,
Right?
Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with his sons and brothers.
Right, so he'd go to the top guy and flatter him to compel the Jews. This is what we was talking about. Esau with that deceptive mind, man. They understand how people operate and that they'll follow this man, so let's manipulate the leader to compel the rest of the Jews to follow him. That's literally what he's saying here, right? Can you read it?
Now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment,
Right, profane the Sabbath, profane the temple, right? Read.
like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also,
Right?
and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends.
So you're going to be in the number of the king's friends, right? Just all you got to do is sacrifice this pork to Zeus, right? Can you read it?
And thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold in many
You
rewards.
see that? That's the many rewards that there was given, right? So go back to Daniel 11 and 32, right? So that's the flatteries, man.
That's how you know Esau the dope.
Yeah, that's deceptive. I'm going to go to the top guy, pull him aside. You know, all the heathen are doing it. You got your brothers even doing it, man.
Not even just that, like, what's your point of me making me do this? You got your own God, I got my own God. That's real.
Simple.
You want it all to be one people.
Effeminate people, right?
Like, why?
Yeah.
Bring it on, man.
God, this is
That's
the
wicked.
book of Daniel,
All Antiochus,
chapter
man.
11 and verse 32.
Right? And this, the accuracy of Daniel is mind-blowing. Right, bring it up.
And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries.
Right?
But the people that do know their
The
God
people that know their God, read.
shall be strong and do exploits.
You see that? And they started rising up, and that's where we get the Maccabean revolt from. Right? I believe that's 167 BC to 160 BC. And that's the start of the Hasmonean dynasty, which is when we basically kind of stole away our independence from the Greeks, man. All right? So this is those exploits you read all about in the book of Maccabees, when we was putting the heathen to flight, man. Just read first Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, and the 4th chapter. Right? You will see about all these different exploits. Right? And one of the main ones is the Feast of Dedication. That's one of our main exploits. All right, so get Daniel chapter 8, and we was on verse 12, yeah.
That's the book of Daniel to the 8 verse 12. And an host was given him against their daily sacrifice by the reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
Right, it prospered, because even during the time of Paul, you had Israelites calling themselves Greeks. So Antiochus' plan actually prospered. You had a remnant left who was strong, but ultimately this plan of Hellenization and forcing it prospered.
Even to
Right?
today.
Yeah, like I said, even to this day, that same spirit, man. Right? Keep reading.
African American. Verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint, which he spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot?
So basically, he's saying, how long is the sanctuary going to be defiled? Now remember, right, this all happened in 167 BC. Get First Maccabees 1 and 54. Now remember, Antiochus reigned 175 BC, and that's the 137th year of the Greeks. So bring this up.
It's the book of First Maccabees. You said chapter 1.
Chapter 1 and 54, yeah.
The book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 54.
Right,
It says, now the 15th day of the month,
right,
cast loot in the 140th year. It's like in the 145th year.
the 145th year. That's actually 8 years after. Right, so 8 years after 175 BC will be 167 BC, right? Keep reading.
Right? They set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar.
Right, so the altar was defiled completely in 167 BC, right? And the angel's asking, how long is it going to be defiled, right? Keep reading.
And builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
Right, and he set up people like Zeus and Hercules in the temple. Right, so get Daniel 8 and read the verse 14. Right, going into how long it's going to be defiled. Then we can go into the cleansing of the temple, which is the Feast of Dedication.
That's right.
It's the book of Daniel to the 8 and verse 14.
Right?
And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Now, days represent years. But in this context, it's talking about the sanctuary. You had 2 sacrifices a day. So you got to split this number in half, right? Which would make it 1150, right? 1150 divided by the 360 days you got a year, that's like 3.1. So about 3.1 years, that's when the sanctuary was cleansed. It was defiled in the month Casliel, right? It was defiled in the month Casliel on 167 BC. It actually got cleansed in 164 BC. All right, so let's pour that.
Cash Lou, real quick. Let's get that month. I believe that's December.
Yeah, that's 12 month.
Yeah,
So it says, Cashlu, so-called Judaism, Jew calendar, the 9th month of the year according to biblical reckoning, and the 3rd month of the civil year, usually falling within November and December. So,
In the war that they fought to get the temple cleansed, it's called the Battle of Beth Zor. The Battle of Beth Zor, you read it in 1 Maccabees 4 and 28 on down. That's in 164 BC. When you look it up on Wikipedia, it says it's around October. Now get 1 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 52, so you can get the time frame on this. Because remember, it was the abomination was set up in 145th year, and now you're gonna see it's 3 years later.
254, right?
Yeah, 52.
52. This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 52.
No, 4 and 52.
4 and verse 52.
Right, so now we read about it was defiled in 167 BC, 8 years after Antiochus' reign. And then 3 years after that, as Daniel prophesied, it will be cleansed. So the accuracy of Daniel is mind-blowing. That's why when people say the Bible fit, they don't got this deep understanding, man. Right, bring it up.
Book of First Maccabees 4, verse 42.
52,
It's like 52.
right?
It says, now on the 5 and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up before it's like B times in the morning,
Right.
and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made.
You see that? So they built a new altar because this is going into the Feast of Dedication. When you read First Maccabees, the 4th chapter, they took down all the idols and built a new altar and started sacrificing on it 3 years after. So that abomination of desolations, it lasted 3 years. All right, and that's prophesied in Daniel. And that's 164 BC after the Battle of Beth Zor. So brothers want to take note of that and kind of dive in Maccabees and the history and look these things up so you can, further expand your knowledge on your history, man. You should know the date, man. Kind of, hey, why we celebrate this? Hey, because in 167 BC, you had Antiochus, he kind of defiled the temple. And then 3 years later, in 164, they had this battle, right? It was at Beth Zur, and then they kind of, cleansed the temple, man. And that's why we celebrate. But you ask somebody why you celebrate Thanksgiving, just to be with the family, right? They have no understanding, man. So you got to understand your history in this thing, man. Right? Because ain't nobody said when 4th of July was set up, they said it's, this battle, XYZ, it was this date and this location. We got to know that for us. Right, so this is 164 BC when we cleansed the temple, right? Under the Maccabean revolt, right? Which again was fought from 167 BC to 160 BC, right? And these battles was mighty, man. Right, get First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 1. Right, going into our forefathers doing these exploits to these heathen, man. Right? Because although Antiochus had died, right, in 164 as well, and we re-cleansed the temple, that was just us regaining Jerusalem. We had to fortify the city and still fight for years till we finally fully gained our independence. All right, bring it up.
It's the book of First Maccabees, chapter 3 and verse 1. It's like in 1 and verse 3. Then his son Judas called upon Maccabees. It's like called Maccabees. Rose up in his stead.
Right, he rose up in his father's stead, Mattathias, right? Can you read it?
And all his brethren helped him. And so did all they that held with his father.
Right?
And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel.
You see, they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel, man. Our mighty forefathers rose up against Antiochus, against the Seleucid Empire, and stood on their feet, man. Stood their ground for the laws of God, man. Right, can you read it?
Right? And reads, verse 2. And all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. Verse 3. So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him. And he made battles, protecting the host with his sword.
Right, can you read it?
In his axe, he was like a lion.
What the Lord say?
In his axe, he was like a lion.
Hey, Judas was like a lion in his axe, man. Terrorizing and destroying the heathen. Got honor amongst the Israelites, man. Right, so the nation's like, damn, man. The Israelites kind of rose up. This is a so-called slave rebellion, man. Right, can you read it?
It says, and like a lion's whelp, roaring for his prey.
Right, can you read it?
For he pursued the wicked, and sought them out, and burnt up those that vexed his people.
And he burnt them up. Can you read it?
Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand.
Can you read it?
He grieved also many kings, and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever.
You see that his memorial was blessed forever, man. So you can't just talk to these men like they regular men. These men were ordained and set up to reconquer the temple and get Israel back their independence, man,
Right.
from the Greeks. Right after all those hundreds of years of being reigned by them, and then Antiochus came, and we kind of said, the hell with it, and these men fought against them, man. Right? Real quick, get First Maccabees 1, verse 45. Just reading some mighty exploits and acts that these men did. You gotta read Maccabees. My brother's gotta read First and Second Maccabees,
Fire.
man. Right? It's Feast of Dedication week. Kind of take the week out and read this, man.
Sign it.
Right? Bring it up.
First Maccabees
1 to 45.
This book, First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 45.
Right?
It says, and forbid burnt offerings and
No. Sorry, First Maccabees 2 and 45. My bad.
the book of First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 45.
Right?
It says, then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars.
And it was pulling down altars, man. Keep reading.
And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel, uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly.
Right, so they're kind of circumcising kids, tearing altars down, man. Right, destroying the heathen. They was running in caves, man, keeping the commandments. Right, then his son took over and really started putting in work and was like a lion roaring against the heathen, man. And you read about all these different battles. The battle of Beth Honor, the battle of Beth Zur, the battle of Emunis, right? All these different battles that was fought leading up to the Feast of Dedication. And even afterward, man, we kept fighting against Antiochus' son and things like that. So you got to get into this book so you can get into this mighty history, these accounts of our forefathers, man. It's one of the mightiest books right here. All right, with that, I yield.
All praise to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Get the book of, did you get First Maccabees 4 yet? 41.
I ain't go fully into it.
He read something.
God, right? But the point is, the temple was cleansed. But bring it out, First Maccabees 4, 41.
It's the book of First
Right? And
Maccabees.
again, we exhort Israel to read the book of First Maccabees. Time will fail us to go into every account and every mighty act that our forefathers went into, man.
You
Right.
about to the last precept? Because I got a precept.
This is not the last precept. I'm just going into it. First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 41.
It's the book of First Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 41. And Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress.
Right, so Judas appointed certain men. Right, so again, Judas was a top mighty man of the scriptures, man. Damn near up there with King David.
Yeah.
You know, because again, he was working with less, but he was doing mighty acts of valiantness. You know, taking down the heathen.
It's more
You know,
descriptive.
yeah, it's more descriptive. You know, David had wealth. You know, but hey, Judas, man, he was working with little.
Underdog.
He was the underdog. You know, they was in the wilderness. Did you read that part when they was dwelt in the wilderness?
No,
No,
I
you
don't
gotta get that. First
see.
Maccabees.
It's two.
Yeah, bring that out.
And they had no armors.
Yeah.
First
Yeah,
Maccabees.
It's just to prove that they was working with less. Just imagine that. You fighting a people that has money, because Esau, the Greeks, they had wealth and riches. They was taking down many kingdoms. You don't think they had gold to fund their
No,
war?
I was living in the mountains.
Yeah, and the scriptures even tell you don't make war with a man with gold.
27.
Two or something?
I think that's what he wanted.
I think it's.
Yeah, it's one of
When
them.
they first fled.
I think he talking about after them. They had no armor.
Nah, just read whatever account.
All right, this is the book of First Maccabees 2 and verse 27. I think it says, and Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the Lord and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that they ever had in the city.
So they left everything, man. They said, look, I don't give a damn about this garment no more, man. Right? I can give a damn about this damn this chain, right? Or this money that I had. I can give a damn about my business, right? Because these were men that had businesses. They had things going on.
King went to Mattathias.
You
Because
know?
he was the top guy of the city.
Right, so it's like you gotta be willing to give up something, man. You gotta make these sacrifices, and it's so spiritual. What's going on right now, even with the things that's going on with Kanye West and Kyrie, right? So they basically giving up their endorsement deals to follow the Lord, man, and that's mighty. So we gotta give up everything to follow Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, right? So we gotta count these things as laws that we may gain Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. That's what Paul said. Right, so ultimately we come into the time of persecution, right? All that live godly in the Mashiach shall suffer persecution, We're gonna get put to death. We're gonna get spat on. Right? Knowing Jacob's trouble, you're not gonna have your house no more, brother. Right? You're not gonna have that mighty garment. You understand? You might not even have your family. Esau might put to death your family. What you gonna do, man? Give up? No, man. Read these accounts. Our forefathers didn't give up. Best believe you had men that followed Judas Maccabees that lost their family. They wanted that blood, man.
God.
You just killed your child. You just killed your daughter, threw your son off a damn cliff,
That probably was
raped your wife.
I wanted to say this real quick. That probably was a man that his son got thrown off the mountain because they circumcised a baby.
Yeah, so these men, they, hey man, these men weren't thinking that God loves everybody. Let's just put it like that.
God.
These men didn't have a coon spirit on them. They hated the Greeks. You know what I'm saying? They was putting them to death, man. They was putting their children to death.
He had the reason.
They was putting everything to death. If he was a damn Greek, man. And you even had our people that was selling out.
Conan.
So we had to fight against our own people, man. Just to gain control of the temple. Come on, man. It's your temple too, man. You're an Israelite, but you're fighting against me because I want to gain control of our court, of our temple.
That happened.
That's like we both got a house, and then damn, you forsake the house, and I want to go back to the house, and you fighting against me to get in the house, man.
I got one.
What are you
quick
doing, brother?
precept
That's
on
your
that.
house too.
I got one quick precept on that. Real quick, in 1 Maccabees 4:1, it says, Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen and removed out of the camp, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guide, right? And those men were Israelites. So there was God in them on how to get to Judas, man. So we was selling out even then, man. You even had them run into the Greeks for Sikora, say that in first Maccabees 2. And even after he died, they said, look, we kind of served your father, talking to Antiochus' son, and we kind of served your father. Can you revenge us against Maccabees and them? They kind of causing all hell, right? And people don't understand this Jew or Greek and this disdain that they have for the so-called Greeks that was Israelites because they don't understand that history, man. They looked so down on them, they did not have no dealings with them for this reason, man. Right? It was real tension and a real wall of partition between the Israelites and the no decision and then the uncircumcision. And you read that in Maccabees.
And at the time, it was rightfully so. Why would you get down with a people that's getting down with the nations, man? Right? But when Yahushua came back, he had to, issue in that peace and that mercy and that grace. You got to have compassion towards your brothers. That take a lot of strength to even do, man. Your brother cooning out for the so-called white man. He literally said, I will kiss the white man. Ooh. You still got to love that brother. Now you might say, well, look, man, you kind of scratching your head. You don't know if you should love him. Brother, you got to love your brother as thyself. You know what I'm saying? So that's the mercy and the grace that the Lord issued in throughout Israel.
And you know what's crazy? During the time of Yahushua, the Jews started selling out, man.
Yeah.
It
Jews always got down.
It was already sold out. Yahushua, the Pharisees, all them was set up by the Romans.
Yep. This first Maccabees chapter 4 verse 41. Got a point, brother?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna bring out a precept just showing that Mattathias, he was moving in the same spirit of Moses.
Got it.
It was Exodus 32 and 26.
You want me to get it or you X 32 and 26?
Yeah.
It's the book of Exodus chapter 32 and verse 26. And it reads, it says, Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. That's right. It's the same way. You know, you got leaders in the last days.
Yeah, you can see that Mattathias read that account, moving in the same spirit.
Get first Maccabees, we'll close it out with this. First Maccabees chapter 4 verse 41 on down.
God, this is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary.
Right, so Israel, you got to get into this. You got to go into the abomination of desolation. Did you bring that up?
Yeah.
Right? So this was the first abomination of desolation. right? When the Greeks defiled the sanctuary, you know, sacrificing swine's flesh upon the altar, freaking off in the temple, working out in the temple. Just imagine that. They working out, they sweating, they freaking off, it stink, it's pigs everywhere. All hell breaking loose, man.
Man,
Pigs.
Imagine the smell of the
Man.
temple when the Greeks had control of it. The smells, man.
Yeah, Edomites.
Yeah, just
And it's them ancient Edomites.
got it.
I remember we used to go to like the gym as kids just to play like volleyball and stuff, like for wrestling. And you go in the gym room, that joint just stink bad.
Yeah, the gym room was always the
A
nasty.
whole bunch of Edomites, man.
And they sweating everywhere, it smell like damn butt, damn sweat.
Yeah, the locker
Clothes
room.
in the locker room.
Yeah, it
They
smell
be
like
naked.
You
You saw
got
me
it.
naked in the
He saw
locker
me
room.
nothing.
You know, it be smelling like smells, man.
That's
But you got it.
Ah, verse 42. So he chose priests of blameless conversation.
Priest of blameless conversation. Keep reading.
Right? Such as had pleasure in the law.
So you have to have pleasure in the law in the last days. Right? Have pleasure in the law so you can be fit to rebuild the temple.
Right.
Or cleanse the temple rather.
That's what we doing too.
And that's what we doing. We cleansing the temple, man. We getting our spirit right. Examining ourselves, putting off sins. At least that's what brothers should be doing in the last days. Put off these sins, put off wickedness, man. Put off the damn lust, right? Put off the damn slothfulness. That goes for everybody, man. Cleanse the temple, cleanse your sanctuary. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 43. Who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place.
It's like a waste dump, right? At the time, take these to an unclean place, man. And get these things out of here. I mean, it don't really go too much into detail about how dirty the temple was, but man, it was dirty, man. Probably had mildew, probably had just bugs, creeping things running around,
Blood was everywhere. Bro.
blood everywhere. It's just bad.
Clothes.
So you had to tear down these stones. But you want to leave these stones up? That's a reproach unto you. You got it?
Tore the whole thing.
Right? It says, verse 44. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which were profaned,
They had a council.
they
It wasn't just one man running the show, man. They literally had a council. They sat down and said, look, what we going to do about this, man? Right? So you have to have counsel. Counsel is important. Right? Don't just wing it and do your own thing. So when you cleanse in the sanctuary and you get your spirit right, seek counsel. You know, seek counsel, man. What should I do in this situation? What should I do in that situation? Right? Seek counsel from the priest.
the scriptures say do nothing without advice.
Yeah. So you gotta look at these things on the spiritual level. We're giving you the spiritual aspect of these things. It's not just come together and turn up and drink yam. No, brother. It's a spiritual meaning behind these feast days. It's a spiritual meaning behind all our feast days.
Exactly.
Right? So look at it more so spiritual. You got it, brother.
Right? Verse 45. They thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down.
Right? You gotta pull down these doctrines you coming with. Right? You gotta pull down those sins you dealing with, man. Those demons. Pull them down.
Right.
Right? Stop leaving them up because it's going to be a reproach unto you. You can't still be in the truth, but you got those defiled stones. Right? Man going to make mockery of you, man. Right? That's Satan laughing at you. Now look at this man. He coming in the truth, but he still got those stones with him. All defiled and nasty. So you got to pull down those stones and take it to an unclean place and don't meddle no more with it. Right? Meddle no more with your sins. You got it, brother.
Right? Verse 46. And laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to shew what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar.
Right? And the stones are being gathered as we speak, man. Right? The stones are being gathered. We coming back together. The temple is being built. The third temple. Right? Keep reading.
Right? Verse 47. Then they took the whole stones, it's like verse 48, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and an altar of burnt offerings, of incense, and the table.
Right? And the candlestick is talking about the menorah. Okay? The 7-branch menorah.
Not nine.
not 9,
Not
not a 9.5,
12.
right? Not what else they be having, man?
13.
Just all just weird, freaked out shapes, man. Try to make the menorah.
Not a tree.
Yeah.
Tree manure.
I
It's-
seen that too.
It's certain menorahs, man, that just don't deal with it, man. It's got all kind of, it look like a puzzle. We're not dealing with puzzle menorahs, man. Look, we got to deal with the 7 branches. And this is spiritual, man. When you look at it's just spiritual.
Read about it.
You know what it's about, man.
How it's made.
It's about 7. It's like 7 early days, I think.
He said spiritual.
That's right. And that's in Revelation, the first
So
chapter.
you know what it's about.
It's about 7 early days.
Seven spirits.
7 spirits.
Yeah, the 7 spirits. We
7 churches.
ain't really going
Yeah, I
to,
ain't
you know, but you can read about that in Revelation, the first chapter.
Revelation 5 too, I believe.
7 churches.
It goes-
7 branches.
Not just that, it can precept all
We'll talk
seven
about that.
spirits.
We'll talk about it.
You got it, brother.
Verse 47. It's like a verse 49. Yeah, or not. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and an altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table.
Right, so they brought in all the new holy vessels, right? That was set up for the temple. You got it.
And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they were lighted.
And they had to burn those incense because the smells is unbearable, right? And that's just what we did in the temple was burn incense. So, you know, burn the incense, you know, get it smelling good. You know, you cleaning it out. You know, using your neat treat, you know, whatever products they had at the time to clean it out.
You feel good after that too.
Yeah, it's a righteous spirit that comes with cleanliness.
That's right.
When everything goes junk,
Makes you godly.
yeah, it's real though. When you damn clean up your room, you feel good. Like, oh man, it's clean in here, man. Just put a new spirit on you,
Yes.
you know. But if you live in a hoarder lifestyle, all hell gonna break loose. Your spirit gonna be defiled, you know. So it says they lighted, or they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted. So, you know, the candlestick, and we light the candles
Right.
upon the menorah. Keep reading.
Right. So
And 7 is a spiritual number which represents completion, right? So the 7 spirits, the 7 churches, right? It goes into those things. You can read about that. I believe Revelation 1:18 through 20. You understand? Keep reading.
God. In verse 50, Willie. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table, and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, in Slakin, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, and even that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals.
Right, so it was dedicated with songs, with timbrels, with harp. So we got to turn up in righteousness during the Feast of Dedications. Right? Play some music, have fun, dance. You don't think our forefathers were doing that? No, they was turning up, man. They just got the victory, they got